From terrified of being broke to a 7-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. I now know, Raymond, it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull that off, starting as late as 63, anybody can, I believe, with the right direction.
Hello, this is Raymond Aaron, New York Times top 10 bestselling author, bringing you Respark Your Life podcast, the world's premier podcast to ignite the fire to allow you to live life on your own terms. Every single Thursday, I bring you a multi-millionaire, world-famous celebrity to teach you about the most fascinating ways in order to live a far better life. Every single Thursday, you just need to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. I'll see you every Thursday to respark your life.
Yes, this is Raymond Aaron with another fascinating episode. Oh my gosh, if I could list them all in order, then this might be the best one ever. It's called The One-Page Millionaire. Why? Because David, our guest David Nassif, is going to share his story of being fired at age 63 and then being a millionaire at age 69. And he's written a book on it, The One-Page Wealth Compass. And he's here as my guest. David Nassif, how are you?
Great, Raymond. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing interview because I have no idea how to become a millionaire in one page. So tell us your story. Like, up to age 63, you were an employee, you were normal, everything was fine. Now, but did you have some financial troubles? Like, were you normal in the sense that you were broke and you couldn't pay off your credit card each month? Or were you normal in the sense that you were pretty good financially, but not a millionaire?
Well, it's funny. I thought I was pretty good financially, and I thought I was doing everything right. And I was making a very good income. Matter of fact, most of my last decade or before, I was making a nice 6-figure income. So this shouldn't have been. I should have been at 63, I should say. I should have been just fine. I should have had a nice solid 401k, money in the bank. But I don't know. I just did what a lot of people do. I procrastinated. I got caught up on this investment and that investment. And all of a sudden, totally unexpected, I get fired at 63. And I did the math. And if we drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we were scheduled to be broke by 65. And at this point, I'm thinking, who in the heck's going to hire me at my age? But, that wasn't even the hardest part, Raymond. The hardest part was driving home thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? At that point in our life, we'd been married for 30 years. And she just didn't deserve the mess I just threw her life into. It was like disaster. All the one day, snapped my fingers. So anyways, I decided, I started interviewing with people, but my heart wasn't in it. I just did not want to go back to the corporate world, but I had to put food on the table. I had to keep a roof over head. So I had the luxury of just choosing. And as I'm interviewing people, they say it in the most professional, respectful way, but they say, David, the company that fired you, they did the right thing because you're of no value to us either. I mean, you're basically a washed up 63-year-old. I mean, they didn't phrase it that harshly, I promise you.
Wow.
But it was basically the message that I got. And so I'm thinking, okay, I got to do something here because I am not going to give up like this. This is not going to be my ending. There's no possible way I'm going to let this happen. And so I decided to take a huge risk. And I went and I started my own business. Now, I had scars, though. I got to tell you about this because in my 40s, I tried to start a business twice. And both times I failed. Once it plunged me into a 6-figure deep debt that took me years to pay off. So this was a casual decision like, I'm going to just go ahead and start my own business. Why not? I hear that's a pretty good thing. No, I had proved myself I was no good at as an entrepreneur. And they told me I was no good as a corporate person. So
no.
where am I going to go here, Raymond? This was not my
God.
So everywhere I turned, but I says, okay, I have to hire myself because no one else will. And I have to just fight through my fears and just do this. And so I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission, no salary, no safety net, no safeguards whatsoever. And the first months were absolutely brutal. Cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I heard so many no's I can't count in that month period. But Raymond, I have to say to myself, looking back, now I can reflect back. At the time, it was terrible, but I honestly believe all that rejection I was getting, all that resistance I was getting, was the resistance I needed to build the mental muscles I needed to punch through that dark period of my life 10 months after grinding, I hit an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying 6-figure corporate salary. And for a moment, I thought, we made it. But then I realized we haven't made nothing because I've been making good money for almost 40 years. And look where it got me, on the verge of financial collapse. I said, I got to learn how to invest. I got to learn how to, build wealth. And I didn't have a clue, apparently. I have a 40-year history to prove I didn't have a clue. And I didn't have time for theories and people give me all this, stuff so they can make their commissions. So I dug in. I read 21 books on personal finance. I listened to 13 podcasts faithfully, read blogs, newsletters. Every time I got a good idea, Raymond, I put out this one piece of paper. When the one piece of paper filled up, I said, no, I'm not going beyond one piece. So I would take the worst idea off and put a better one on. I kept refining it to a set it and forget it approach. Because I had a company to run. I couldn't be watching Wall Street. 6 years later, I hit an incredible milestone. From terrified of being broke to a 7-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. I now know, Raymond, it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull that off, starting as late as 63, anybody can, I believe, with the right direction.
What a story. Wow. Wow. So it's not enough to make $100,000 a year or more. You have to take that income and invest it wisely.
Yep, you really do.
In 40 years, you learned how to make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
It just got frittered away somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't even tell you where it all went. I wish I could get it all back.
Now,
crazy.
Is there something in your youth that you can now look back on and say, that was the start of it? Did you have some experience when you were a child?
That's an excellent question. And actually, it happened during the darkest period of my life in that moment. I'll just share it to you briefly. I heard a true study that was done by the Max Planck Institute. And what they did is they took people and they placed them in a dense German forest. And they told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these are all confident, capable people. But when the clouds covered the sun and they lost their point of reference, the GPS tracking they were wearing showed they were gradually starting to walk in circular motions. Some of them were actually ending up right back where they began, and yet every single one of them was absolutely convinced they were walking in a perfectly straight line the entire experiment. That is my life story for 40 years, Raymond. I was working hard, making good money, thought I was doing what the right thing when it came to investing and building wealth, but I was literally walking in circles, ending up on the verge of financial collapse. At that moment, I said to myself, no more. That's what I need. I need a compass, but not a metal compass like traveler's shoes. I need a one-page compass so I can keep on the straight and narrow. I'm the kind of guy, I'll admit, I get a shiny object, I'm off to the races in the wrong direction. Hot tip, I'm going the wrong way. I couldn't afford to do that anymore. My runway was too short at 63. It was more like a helicopter pad than a runway. I couldn't afford to get off track. I needed a 30,000-foot view to keep me in the straight and narrow. And that one page, when I reviewed it once a week, it was the 30,000-foot view that kept me from veering off in the crazy directions I was doing for 40 years. And that was the turning point, I believe, understanding the clarity and the direction of that one page that gave it to me.
When you told that story, it reminded me that most people, employees and entrepreneurs, their alarm goes off in the morning, they have breakfast, they commute to work, they do whatever they do at work, they commute home, they have their dinner, they watch some TV, they set their alarm, and they're going around in that same circle that you talked about in the forest. But they don't think they're doing that. They think they're being an employee or a really good entrepreneur, but
Absolutely.
They're just going around in circles.
That's such a profound observation, because here's my thinking at this point. If you don't have your own plan, you're part of someone else's. For 40 years, I was part of someone else's plan. I made other people rich. I made them I've contributed to making them very wealthy, but I didn't have my own plan for me until I got my one-page compass. And that's what I would tell people is you got to have your own plan, because I don't care how much money you make or how good you are and how loyal you are as an employee. At the end, you're on your own, buddy. I mean, there's no more pensions are out there.
Okay. I got a page here. I got a page here.
Okay.
Give me some clues to some of the most interesting aspects of your one-pager.
Yes. Well, I'm going to show it to you. Actually, I'm going to give your listeners this for free at the end of this, because I don't want anybody in the same boat I was at 63. I don't want that to happen to anyone. It's just not right. Basically, it's two simple columns. Okay, one of them is the 9 trail markers to financial freedom. I found after reading those 21 books and all those podcasts, there is an actual sequential order that is the best to do things in if you really want to build wealth and not go backwards and go in circles and have to start over, that kind of thing. And these are the 9 points I came up with that after reading countless books. The other side is the North Star principles. There's only 5 of these. And what these are is, this is like that keeps you out of trouble thing. So you know how you get veered off sometimes and going in the wrong direction? This keeps you like, okay, wait a minute. Say something doesn't apply to one of these 9 steps, but you hear it and it sounds really good. Well, you go to these principles and say, wait a minute, that doesn't really consistent with my principles. I need to stay away from that type of thing. Let me tell you the first thing on here, because it's really good. Live on less than you earn. If people don't get that piece right, they can forget about all the books, all the Wall Street talk, all the investment tips. If you don't get that piece right, everything else is going to be wrong. That's why it's the first North Star principle, because most people struggle.
Say it again slowly. I didn't hear it.
Oh, live on less than you earn.
Oh, yes.
Live on. If you don't, I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds elementary, but if most people don't get that, that's why people are retiring and having just Social Security in too many cases to be their source of income. And it's not that's not a retirement. That's almost a death sentence in terms of misery and financial misery. And I tell you, that is one of the biggest problems. But there's others too. I'm just saying, but that's one that's the big picture of things. Matter of fact, can I just share something with you, because I think it really applies to this whole thing is, some people say, oh, David, if I made the kind of money you did, or if I made the kind of money Raymond did, I could do this investing thing. I could do this, but I have to live in paycheck to paycheck, buddy. This is dreamland for me. I can't do that kind of thing. I don't make enough money. Well, let me tell you why that's a lie. Okay, I know it's a lie. The NBA, the National Basketball Association, the average player makes over $10 million a year. I didn't say in his lifetime. I said in a single year. And yet, after 5 years of retirement, 60% of them are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. And the NFL is even worse. After only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt or in serious financial stress. And that's according to Sports Illustrated. Now, let's compare that to Dale Schroeder, a basketball-loving carpenter who made average to below average income his entire life. But he chose to, live on less than he learned and invest the difference wisely. He ended up with a $3 million net worth. That is more than most of the NBA and most of the NFL players made with their tens of millions of dollars of income. So please don't tell me you don't make enough money, because this is not about how much money you make. It's what you do with the money that you actually make. What I found when I built my one-page wealth compass was this: making money is different than building wealth. Those athletes were pros at making money. They made the elite income because they were the top of their game in their profession. Yet most of them, not all, most of them were terrible at building wealth. Dale Schroeder, he wasn't that great at making money, let's face it, okay? But he was a master at building wealth. 2 separate skills.
And another proof of your idea is that when someone earns a certain amount of money, whatever it is, and then they get a raise, they live up to the new raise and they spend, when they're down here, they spend more than this income. And then when they're up here, they spend more than that income.
Exactly. Yeah.
They get another raise, or if they drive Uber in the evenings and weekends, so they make even more money, they spend more than that.
I agree. That's because they don't have a plan. I'm not saying it has to be this plan, but any plan. They have no plan. Their plan is live on the money that comes in the door. That's it. Live their full potential.
David, I want to ask you a question. Did all this idea and addiction of spending more than you earn, did that come just when credit cards arrived? Like, it couldn't happen before credit cards because you only had a certain amount of money.
Well, it actually can, because you can be house poor. A lot of people are house poor. They let their ego decide the house they're going to buy instead of sound financial principles. Okay, student loans are another killer of people today. I mean, I can tell you stories, and I say it in my book. People in their 70s and 80s, Raymond, they are still making student loan payments.
What?
And they're now it's getting deducted from their Social Security. And these are 18-year-old decisions that are haunting them for the rest of their life, to their grave. And let me tell you the worst part of this. Many of these people never got the diploma. So in other words, it's like buying a car, getting the payment book, but never actually getting the car. It's like this is reality. So there's creative ways to do this without the credit cards, but yeah, the credit cards really help a lot.
Tell us number 2 on the right-hand side.
Debt freedom. A lot of people, so many people think debt is just a numbers game. It's hey, David, I'm not going to go out of debt and pay my credit cards off because, I got this great rate, or whatever, and I'm earning on the stock market. I'm earning 10% and I'm only paying 6%. That's crazy thinking, because Raymond, what they're not taking into account is the risk that comes with debt. I can tell you a number of my high income, high net worth friends in 2008 who had this philosophy. They were leveraged to the hilt because they felt like, hey, I'm going to use other people's money. Isn't that like cool phrase, OPM, other people's money? That was just so smart thinking. Now these people lost all of their properties, most of their net worth, and they're basically struggling because they thought it was all a arbitrage situation where, if I'm making more and I'm paying less, then it's okay. They didn't take the risk piece into account. So financial calculators do not take the risk of debt piece into account. And that's what's tripping so many people up on the debt thing.
Wow. You should have started with all this. You would have been the world's most famous financial planner or the biggest star on television.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Raymond. You're talking about the biggest star on television. Have you heard the stories about youth stars, so young children who are stars, and their life gets ruined? I mean, it's just absolutely devastating what happens to their life with drugs or with whatever the situation was. I believe the Lord kept me from understanding this until I was 63. I don't know if my ego could have handled this earlier on. I think I could have been more destructive. The Lord knew, David, okay, this is your time. I prepared you for a certain situation, and now you're ready for this. You weren't ready for this early. It was the Lord's time, not my time. Yes, I agree. But Raymond, my company, it had the best year ever last year. I'm doing wonderfully. And this book is a passion project for me. I just felt like I was in the dark period of my life, and I don't want anybody going through that. And if I can help people do that, then that's for me real fulfillment. I believe, anyways.
You know what, Dave? I fell victim to that. At age 39, I was in terrible shape. I was heavily in debt. Didn't know what to do with my life. Wife had just divorced me. Boss had just fired me. And then I gave my first speech. It was wildly successful. And in 1 year, I went from heavily in debt and zero income to earning millions of dollars a year. And I didn't handle it well. And the way that I got into trouble was food. Luckily, I didn't get into drugs or alcohol, but I did get into food, and I ballooned up to 50 pounds overweight. I couldn't even bend over and tie my own shoelaces. I had to buy slip-on shoes. So I do know what you mean. And we've all seen it with, for example, Elvis. Elvis, when he started, was gorgeous. He was such a beautiful guy. And at the end, he was like hundreds of pounds overweight and into drugs and every other problem.
No, I agree with you. And, people think like these hard times we go through, they wish they didn't have to go through them. They're necessary. I remember reading once somebody was saying they were going through a dark period in their life, and they felt like it was more than they could handle. And they said a prayer, say, please relieve me of this burden. It's more than I can handle. And the response they got back in their mind was, I love you too much to deny you of this experience. That was me, Raymond. When I got fired at 63, an almost on financial collapse situation, I prayed for relief from this experience. I am so grateful. He loved me too much to deny me, to relieve that. I needed to go through that 6-year journey. I really did. I am a stronger person. I am a more free person. I am a happier person I've ever been in my life. And I'm grateful for the experience looking back on it. At the time it was very difficult, but looking back on it.
Wow. So your message has nothing to do with being an employee or being an entrepreneur, because you were successful at both. This has to do with your 5 rules, like spending less than you earn, investing wisely.
Yes.
Don't run out shiny pennies.
That's right. Exactly. Because I believe you don't have to be an entrepreneur to do this. Okay. You could be, if I had done this when I started my corporate career, oh my gosh, I'd be wildly successful. If my net worth would be, but if I also doing it late in life as an entrepreneur, it works too. The principle is this is about wealth building. I do talk about income, in my first 2 chapters, because when I read those 20 books, none of them talked about income. They assumed if you're reading my book, you must be making good money or you would be looking to invest. Okay. Well, that's not true. There's a lot of people who are underemployed, underappreciated, and just undervalued in their job and underpaid. And so that's a big piece of it. We got to get that piece straight first. But if you're okay on that, then you can jump to the principle that applies to you. But a lot of people aren't in that situation. So that's important too, I believe.
I bet you one of the books that you read in your research was The Millionaire Next Door.
I did. You got it.
Yeah.
That was very good.
I love that book. The Millionaire Next Door is about the person who doesn't look like a millionaire.
Exactly.
The flashy car is bought by the guy who's heavily in debt.
Yes, exactly.
The Millionaire Next Door buys a car based on dollars per pound. Yeah. I remember that line.
Yeah. And what's funny, when you do have the money at this stage in my life, means nothing to me. Keeping up with the Joneses is a joke. It wasn't a joke to me in my 40s, though. It really wasn't a joke to me. Maybe in my 50s too, but it is a joke to me now. It is so meaningless. It is so empty. It is just so, and that's one of the things this journey helped me understand too. A very important piece, I think.
Well, I want my subscribers to get your genius. You promised us that you would give us that 1 page for free. And also, I want to add to it, they should race to Amazon and buy the 1 Page Wealth Compass. The 1 Page Wealth Compass by David Nassif, Nassif. So race to Amazon and do that. But also listen to David right now to learn how to get that 1 page.
Absolutely. All they have to do, Raymond, is go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free, and they can just enter their email. They'll get an instant download of it instantly, and they'll also be on my email. So I give tips and case studies and things like that are kind of supplements to the compass in the book and that kind of thing. That's really, I think, helpful. And so, but just go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free, and they can download their compass immediately and have it too for themselves.
David, if we were neighbors, we'd be best friends.
I agree.
I love you. What a fun-filled, high-energy interview with real wisdom. Wow. Thank you. You are changing lives.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Wow, I sure hope you enjoyed that fascinating episode. Please make sure you've subscribed, and please tell your friends, if you like it, that they will probably like it as well. For your information, this experience, this service, this podcast has been sponsored by the Orbit Coaching Program. All of my friends, all my world famous speaker friends, all have coaching programs. Mine has been independently rated as the #1 high-level coaching program. You cannot purchase it. You have to audition for it by me personally. If you're interested, please email me at respark@aaron.com. respark@AARON. Say that you're interested in being considered for the Orbit Coaching Program and include your cell phone number so that I personally will call you back.